Hello, and welcome to the Impact Technology webinar series. My name is Marcelo Royan. I'm the technical leader here at Impact, and I will be hosting this seminar today for you. Before we start, let me introduce the scope and nature of what we're going to see in the next 30 minutes or so. In this first webinar, I'm going to introduce you FIWARE, the main component of Impact Technology. And we're going to walk together through its basics so you can get a more precise idea of what it is and what you can do to make the most out of it in your project. So, shall we start? As I said before, this first webinar is meant to be an introduction to the technology behind Impact and will be followed by other webinars which will go deeper into the concepts that we're going to talk about now. So this is the structure of the information I wish to present you with. We're going to talk about Impact a little bit at first, and then I will introduce you to its technology and go directly to the enablers that are core to it. We'll finish with a review of everything and with some clear next steps for you to follow if you're interested in being an Impact-based project. Of course, you already know what Impact is, but before we begin with the webinar itself and before we begin speaking of technology, I'd like to talk a little bit about Impact. Impact, as you may know, stands for Internet Mobile Projects Accelerator, and it's a consortia selected by the European Commission within the 7th Framework Programme to accelerate European startups and projects. It is made up of 4 big companies, 4 European companies of course, and a network of entrepreneurs and well-known professionals of the digital European ecosystem. I would like to stress this fact because the network is one of our best assets and is going to be, I'm sure, one of the biggest advantages you will find if you're selected to be helped by the Impact project. So, Impact has 4 objectives. First one being to accelerate at least 64 European startups, which focus is on mobile internet. What we're going to do with each of them is subsidize them with up to 100,000 euros without an equity consideration whatsoever. What that means is that yes, we're gonna give you 100,000 euros without taking any equity out of your project. That makes a total investment of 6,400,000 euros in a 2 years time. During the acceleration period, we're going to provide a premium service during 6 months, and this premium service consists in training and mentoring services, which is going to be done under the guidance of key world-class digital professionals and entrepreneurs. After this period of 6 months, we're going to manage the most promising of the projects towards the extended investment phase, which is going to be done with business angels and first-class global funds. So this is how the Impact project is structured. Lastly, I would like to stress 2 thorough values on which the Impact project relies. They are transparency and high performance. We work with open models where processes are visible, and which is especially important. We all work towards a common goal. We believe that strong projects are made out of collaboration. And second, as I was saying, high performance, because we're only gonna select projects which perform. And as you know, we're going to subsidize projects but only the most performing of them. So I think it's very important that you keep in mind these two values on which we depend and on which your projects are going to depend too. Anyway, if you want to know more details about the impact project, you have a press release on our website, and I encourage you to take a look at it because it can be handy for you to understand the whole point. Anyway, if you want to participate in impact and have an eligible project at hand, you probably already know that there is an important requirement for you to meet. You can see it on our website, and this requirement is that the project selected must be committed to use FI technology, FIWARE, and or FI content. So yeah, indeed, your projects need to make use of FIWARE technology in order to be eligible. We're going to explain what FIWARE is and what it means for your project and your future application for impact. And we're going to shed some light too on the whole thing, using your language and saving the techie words for later. First thing is a simple and clear fact. FIWARE is a requirement, true, but this would be too straight of a vision, because it's an opportunity, and it's a really big benefit for your project. So I encourage you to see it that way from now on, because really, that's what it is. Well, technology is key to success for projects in the digital arena, and the European Commission is fully aware of it. That's the reason why they have co-sponsored the development of the FIWARE technology, which has been accomplished with the help of leading European companies like Nokia, Siemens, Telefonica, IBM, and many others. FIWARE is part of a bigger European-wide strategy called Future Internet Public-Private Partnership. But you see, we're not going to speak strategy here, so if you want to learn more about it, I encourage you to visit their website. This is the Future Internet website, and here you can see all the projects that are included in the initiative. As you can see, there are many things going on, and well, I really encourage you to take a look at this website because I bet you're gonna find interesting things for your projects. And well, as you can see, you have the FIWARE project here is one of the most important projects of the Internet Enabled Innovation Program. Here is its website. By the way, you can find all the links of all the websites we're gonna take a look at in the main presentation, and the document will be available to you on the Impact website. So no worries, with the links you're gonna have them. Yeah, so well, this is the FIWARE website. I'm sure you're gonna get very used to it in the following months. So now that you have the context for FIWARE, in the next minutes I'm going to walk you through the whole concept, and we're going to learn a lot more about FIWARE technology and how you can benefit from it. FIWARE was built under one simple premise. All digital projects rely on the same generic software services which are used as building blocks for the final product offered to users. If you've ever been to an internet project, involved in an internet project, you know what I'm talking about. So this is exactly what FIWARE is. Some kind of toolbox full of these building blocks and ready to be used in your project. FIWARE blocks have been built as open, interoperable, and reusable services, so you can get up and running with your project as quickly as possible. But let's briefly see what these attributes mean exactly. Open means that FIWARE specifications are public and royalty-free, driven by the development of an open source reference implementation. Interoperable, because FIWARE blocks are independent and can be used on a per-case basis, interconnected between them and also with your own specific developments. And reusable, because FIWARE software is built once and tested so that you can take advantage of all its features without having to recode them. So basically, no more reinvention of the wheel. And as you're probably curious about the real-life use case of FIWARE, we're gonna see together a video where Christoph Müller, the CEO of Foodloop, explains his own experience with the software.
Hi, my name is Christoph Müller-Dechen. I am the CEO of Foodloop, and today I'm here at the CeBIT explaining what the added value of FIWARE generic enablers is for us. You might not know what Foodloop does, so Foodloop significantly contributes not only to the avoidance and reduction of food waste, but we do actually do charity and make food more affordable, and all that with the contribution on the food retail industry on the one side and us consumers through an app on the other side. All wrapped up in one sentence, we connect to every supermarket in this world and to their ERP on the one end and take all the information of their products that are close to the best before date and then market that in real time. Meaning that the Foodloop app users, which is all us consumers, we receive a notification saying, hey, my favorite yogurt, now 5 days before the best before date goes off, 30% discounted at my supermarket just around the corner. And that is what Foodloop does. We communicate that information automatically in real time from the retailers to the consumers. FIWARE Labs now helps us with the so-called Cosmos in-memory database to analyze and filter that information in real time. As you can imagine, that data is huge amounts of files that have to be filtered in order to just assign that product to the people based on their locations, based on their product's interests, and so on. There's another interesting generic enablers, the so-called GE locks. The locks one enables Foodloop to narrow down where the smartphone actually is and do in-store navigation in supermarkets without having to equip the supermarkets with additional RFID Wi-Fi sensors. So the locks one saves Foodloop time for development and the retailers time to actually put sensors in there. It all works by itself. Android Flow Management generic enabler, which allowed us during our prototyping phase to simulate 100 supermarkets with each 1,000 products, huge amounts of data, without having to physically create that entire infrastructure. We basically got our proof of concept with the generic location enabler by only simulating it and not having had a field test yet. So to come to a conclusion, the generic enablers and FIWARE Labs support and add value to our entire infrastructure that Foodloop has to offer. Thank you so much.
As you have heard during Christoph's talk, FIWARE blocks are called generic enablers and are available in the form of consumable APIs so that your application, web or mobile, can make use of their functionality within its own context and scope. But wait, what is an API? Well, an API, which stands for Application Programming Interface, is a set of programming instructions and standards for accessing a web-based software application or web tool. It's a software-to-software interface, not a user interface, which you are used to as an internet user. So with APIs, applications can talk to each other without any other user knowledge or intervention. And this allows an application to be interconnected with others and use their features in an integrated way. Anyway, if you want to know more about an API, you have two definitions on the presentation, and you can go deeper on these definitions if you like. So, with the help of FIWARE Enablers, your application can gain a whole lot of features without the need to implement them yourself. Isn't that powerful? We think it is. So, in the next chapters, we will take a closer look at these enablers, at how they work, and at how you can benefit from using them in your project. But first, I'd like to introduce some other components of the FIWARE architecture. The FIWARE architecture comprises a number of technologies that act as complements of the core technology. Together, they form the FIWARE ecosystem, and this is where the power of the technology lies, in the fact that it's an ecosystem. So, the first and most important of these technologies is what we call FILAB. FILAB is a working instance of FIWARE, where the vast majority of enablers and other technologies are available as services. But not only that, FILAB is also a meeting point for everyone in the ecosystem, and most important, it's a free resource. Let's check its website. So, this is where the website, well, I'm sure you can take a look around for yourself. For now, let's say that the instance is available to developers for free experimentation with the technology. So, basically, this is where you can go to implement and test your application. The space is divided into several sections, and each of them allows a specific set of features inside the instance. This section, you can see them here, are Cloud, Store, Mashup, and Account. Each of them has its own set of information, and you can operate them here. This is the FILAB website. In following webinars, we'll be looking a very closer look at this website, as it's an important part of the FIWARE ecosystem. Also, FILAB has been thought as a meeting point for everyone in the ecosystem, as I was saying before. It's a place where application sponsors, so application customers, public administrations, investors, and so on, and application developers, as well as web entrepreneurs, can meet each other. And above all, as I was saying, FILAB is free, and you just need to sign up for an account to begin using it. You can sign up here. Well, as I was saying, in our next webinar, we will be taking a closer look at FILAB and its possibilities. But for now, I encourage you to check its basics for yourself. Another important piece of the FIWARE architecture, which is somehow special for impact projects, is what is called FI-content. FI-content is a collection of enablers which are very specific to the areas of content, media, networks, and creativity, and therefore to the applications that we at Impact are more interested in. These enablers are not basic enablers, though. They're not generic enablers, so they will not be your first priority when implementing your projects. But they're going to be pretty useful for you too. So we will take a look at them in future webinars, and we will talk more about them in the future. But for now, I just wanted you to know that they're there, and that they will be helpful in the future. This is the website for FI-content, and here you can see what it has to offer for your project. But as I was saying, I think it's best to concentrate on FIWARE generic enablers for now, and leave these FI-content enablers for later. And to finish our description of the FIWARE enablers, I suggest you take a look at this video where Carlos Domingo, the CEO of Telefónica R&D, gives an explanation of what FIWARE is. This took place at the campus party 2013, I think, and it's a pretty interesting talk where Carlos explains the whole architecture, and I think it can be of a big help for you for your projects. We're not gonna watch it now, but I really advise you to watch it yourself. Okay, so it's time to take a deeper look at FIWARE Enablers now. Alright, as we said before, FIWARE is an infrastructure for the creation and deployment of services and applications on the Internet. It's based on a cloud computing structure, and its goal is to become an open alternative for developers and users of Internet services. The essential objective of FIWARE is to help the development and implementation of new services, providing a set of APIs for rapid application development in many areas, facilitating the reuse of the software and introducing standards in its use. So FIWARE has a traditional cloud computing structure, where the enablers which make up its building blocks are organized in three main layers, which are typical to cloud computing. These layers, as you probably know, are infrastructure, platform, and software. The vast majority of enablers in current development state are included in the two first layers, infrastructure and platform, although we can find some in the application layer too. They're all called generic enablers, so GEs. You're gonna find this acronym all over the place, GEs, and their name is due to the generic scope of their functionality. Other enablers, most of them are in the software layer, offer a more specific functionality and cover more specific business area. They're called specific enablers, so SEs in short, and we're not going to treat them for now. They will be the goal of specific webinars in the near future. So, as we just have seen, the generic enablers that form the FIWARE platform are all organized in traditional cloud computing layers, and they're all linked to the following technical chapters, which correspond a lot to these three layers. So, first chapter, cloud hosting. As you guess, this is the fundamental layer which provides the computation, storage, and network resources in which services are provisioned and managed. Well, for all the generic enablers, for all these chapters that we're seeing, you will be able to find two kind of information sets online. First one is the catalog. The catalog is where you can find, it's a list of enablers of each chapter, and then you can find more information about the architecture of each technical chapter on the FIWARE wiki, which is really, really powerful. There's a lot of information about all these FIWARE enablers, and in the next webinar, we'll be taking a closer look at all these resources available for you. But for now, we can just mention them and take a look at them. Quick one. For example, for cloud hosting, we have the catalog. See, this is the list of generic enablers for cloud hosting. So you have this infrastructure as a service, data center, resource management. You have the object storage generic enabler, the platform as a service manager, self-service interfaces, and on and on. So this is the catalog. We'll take a look, a closer look at this very valuable online resource on the next webinar. And then you have the architecture, information on the architecture for each chapter. So for example, for cloud hosting, you have all the information on the architecture here. So you can see the dependencies, how they're being built, designed, and what you can have, what you cannot have. I mean, there are many resources available online. We'll take a look at them on the next webinar. All right, next chapter, so corresponding to the next cloud computing level, is the data context management. This layer includes the facilities for effective accessing, processing, and analyzing big data volumes. And of course, for transforming them into knowledge, which is then made available to applications. So this is one of the most interesting layers you'll find in generic enablers. I mean, along with cloud hosting layers, of course. As you imagine, cloud hosting layer is the most basic one, and you will, for sure begin with it in your developments. But then you'll have the data context management, generic enablers, as you're gonna find many interesting enablers there. Let's take a quick look at them. For example, Cosmos is a very well-known generic enabler for big data analysis. Christoph on his talk, the talk we saw just before, was referring to this generic enabler as one of the ones they're using on his project. And well, you have event processing, you have a content broker for publish and subscribing content. Well, in fact, you have several of them. You have a streaming generic enabler, Currento, which is also pretty widely used in projects. So, well, this is the second layer, the data context management layer. Then we have the chapter of architecture of applications. So it's a delivery framework too, and this is where you can find the infrastructure services that allow you to create, publish, manage, and consume services across their life cycle. Well, as before, I really encourage you to browse the catalog and to take a look at each generic enabler to get a more direct feeling of what they can do. Then, following level, Internet of Things services enablement. This is one of the most interesting goals and areas of FIWARE is the Internet of Things covering. So this layer has many generic enablers and very powerful ones, and it constitutes the bridge where FIWARE services interface and leverage the ubiquity of heterogeneous devices in the Internet of Things. You will find enablers and services that allow you to control sensors, to connect them to each other, and to get results from them, and to connect them to other pieces of your application architecture. Then you have the interface to network and devices group. And in this group, you'll find open interfaces to networks and devices, which provide the connectivity for services delivered across the platform. So this is more of a network interface. So it's more a basic set of enablers, very helpful, of course. And as before, I really suggest to browse the catalog and to take a look at the architecture to have a better feeling of what these enablers can offer you. And finally, well, of course, one of the most important groups, the security groups. The enablers in this group gives you the mechanisms to ensure that the delivery and uses of services is trustworthy and meets security and privacy requirements. Well, as you imagine, this is a very important layer, and you will be using the enablers on this group. I bet you will. So you see, you have enablers for access control, data handling, database anonymizer, identity management. This is a very important and interesting one. Well, very, very important level here. So, I think we've gone through all the basic concepts of FIWARE technology, the technology you need to use if you want to be part of our impact project. And in following webinars, we will take a deeper look at all the concepts we've seen today. But for this first approach to FIWARE technology, I think you now have a broad view of what our technology is. So, to sum it up, basically, as I was saying, the basic of our technology requirements and advantages should be clear for you now. Which are these advantages? Well, for starters, if you want your project to be considered for the impact program, your architecture shall include the use of FIWARE technology. So, see, that's a must. But also, by using FIWARE technology in your project and adapting it to your specific needs, you will be saving time and money, as FIWARE technology is a set of reusable pieces of software that you can use to build your application. So, these generic enablers, which make up the core of FIWARE, are organized in traditional cloud computing layers, so infrastructure, platform, and software, and you can selectively use the GEs which best fit your project's needs and build an architecture that relies on them, or you can just as well make use of them, of a few of them, simply a few of them. That's your choice. You have the toolbox with many tools there, and it's up to you which ones to use, which ones not to use. Also, you have a working instance of FIWARE that you can use as a sandbox for your project's development. It's called FILab, and it's free. You see, there are many sources of information in the web to help you get started with FIWARE and the European technology ecosystem. And the FIWARE is just the core of this ecosystem, but there are many more projects around that add value to it. In the coming weeks, we'll be following up with you with more webinars. Next steps for you now that we are done with our webinar. Well, I hope the basics are clear for you now. And now what you should do is check all the online information about FIWARE at Reach. You can find all the links in this webinar documentation. Then select the GEs that are handy for your application and which fits its architecture and include them in your designs. It's very important that your architecture takes into account all the GEs that you want to use from the beginning. It's very important that you explain to us when you send us your project, when you send us your proposal. It's very important that you already have an architecture which takes into account the FIWARE technology and that you explain to us how you're going to use it. How your architecture takes these enablers and uses them. Then you can set up an account at FILab to start testing your developments in a live environment. And these steps should be more than enough for you to be at work for the next weeks. Stay tuned for our next webinars, where we'll give you some more information and tips about FIWARE and the European technology ecosystem. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope this webinar was useful to you. I'll see you very soon in our next webinars. Thank you again, and welcome to Impact.